Our good friend Viktor Frankl said, life isn't something, it's an opportunity for something. And I wanted to title the video that this week because I think it's very appropriate to what we wanted to talk about today, especially in the way that this saying of his could be misinterpreted so horribly to almost mean the opposite of what he meant. And my point today is that we do often interpret this almost in the opposite way of how he meant it. We're so concerned with squeezing every bit of utility and use and profit out of each hour of our lives that we think this is how we're taking that opportunity. This is how we're trying to make life something. When in reality, Viktor Frankl did not mean that. Viktor Frankl is a Holocaust survivor. And he went through the entire Holocaust, losing everything he had ever owned, and his pregnant wife, and his career, everything he had, everything he was up to that point. He lost everything, including almost the hope that he would ever come out of it alive. And in there, he really met the true meaning of life, which was to give life meaning. He famously said, "We cannot ask what the meaning of life is. Life asks us what the meaning of life is." And during those terrible years, life did ask him what the meaning of life was, and he had to come up with an answer. And because he had to come up with his own answer, his answer is the most meaningful one that anyone could have ever given him, and of course, never could have given him. And that's what he means, that life isn't something but an opportunity for something, is that it's an opportunity for meaning. And no one else can give us that meaning other than ourselves. And no one else can take it away from us other than ourselves. And we talked about, in the past videos, we've been talking a lot about time, living in the present, that the present moment is the only place where life takes place. That we don't live in the past or the future, yet we're so concerned with it. And we're so oppressed by it, we feel like. And I realized just very recently, and this is why I talk about these things, because they're happening in my life. I don't just talk about them because I think you need to know about them. That's one reason. But I just talk about what's going on with me currently and the insights I'm thinking I'm gaining for myself. And I just want to share those. And the most recent thing for me to realize that how I've been doing the wrong kind of opportunity seeking via life, via time, was what most of us do, which is to use time as a tool, to use the present hour and thinking about it in terms of what can I do now that will maximize my profit in the future. And this profit isn't just money, it's happiness, it's fulfillment, it's meaning. What can I do now to set myself up in the future to have all the answers that I'm looking for now that I don't know now, to have all the meaning that I want now that I don't have now? How can I supply it to my future self? How can I use the now for the then? And of course, to some extent, we need to do this. Of course, we need to set ourselves up, even if it's in the most profane little ways of a retirement or anything like that. But to the degree that we do it, we harm ourselves. Life passes us by as we try to make the best one for ourselves. And again, it's because we use time, the time that we have now, the only place in which life takes place, the present moment, we use it merely as a tool for the future, and we use it as a means to an end. The problem is that that end will never come. And you might say, well, the goals that I have now that I'm sacrificing the present time or that I'm using the present time for, why would you say that I can never achieve those goals? I don't mean that you can't achieve those goals. I mean, some goals really are just, most of us set goals that are way, way too big that we will never achieve. But of course, it's possible that we could achieve them. The thing is, even if we do achieve them, we will never stop doing this because we don't know how to stop and because we don't know what to do instead. It's almost a gift to us that we don't have anything that we want. At least we think so. It's a gift that we need to be striving for something. It's a welcome excuse to delay our happiness into the future, because we know how to deal with that. We know how to forego happiness now with the aim of achieving it in the future. And we think all this sacrifice that we're making now, of sacrificing literally the present moment, the present hour, for some fulfillment of a future goal, which will bring us all the happiness we could ever wish for. This is all we know how to do. We don't know what to do if we had all that we wished for now. And if we think about it, this is not even unnatural. For our entire human existence, for tens of thousands of years, we were very much and had to be concerned with subsistence. Every day we had to worry about, to some degree, what to eat, where to stay, how to live, how to make tomorrow easier. And of course, most of us still have to do that to some degree, although much smaller. But something is changing, and it's very recent, especially if you look at human history as a whole, which in itself is a very small thing. But even within that, this development of capital that we've had in the last few hundred years, where we have reserves of things, our standards of living are infinitely higher every decade, almost. Our lives compared to someone in the 1600s, compared to someone in the 1800s, compared to someone now, are vastly different. Even though that entire time, those 400 years, are almost nothing in our human existence. It's a very, very small portion of time. And it's literally in our genes, in our evolutions, to think this way, to use the now for the then, to use the present for the future. But what's happening now, thanks to our technology, our economics, our innovations, science, is that more and more people are having to work less and less. They don't need to work as much to achieve the same standard of living. And the question is, the more freedom we get, the more we need to know what to do with it. And you might say, oh, I'm far from having to worry about that. I still have to work very much. I still have to do very much. I still have very little security. That might all be true, but the question is not about the current situation, but the question is about our intentions. That question does not go away depending on what our current circumstances are. After all, whether we have it or we don't yet have it, we are all striving for freedom, right? Economic independence, being wealthy, is freedom. Having the time to do whatever one wants is freedom. Having influence on others is freedom. Whatever it is that you're striving for, it comes out to freedom. And that's fact for all of us, whether we have it or we don't yet have it. We are striving, we're desiring freedom. So the big question is, what do we intend to do with it? With the freedom that we have or the freedom that we're striving for? Either way, it applies. This question applies to everyone. What do we intend to do with it? And if you need any proof that money, or again, freedom in any way, is not in itself a gift, is not in itself happiness, is not in itself the answer to all your problems, look around to anyone who already has what you dream of having. Look at all the people who don't have to work anymore, who have more money than they could spend, more time than they ever wished for. And you see them still being unhappy. You see them still being resentful, frustrated, angry. And you even see them not valuing that freedom anymore. It's become a curse to them. They don't know what to do with it. They didn't know what to do with it when they were striving for it. They don't know what to do with it now that they have it. And they will, and now actually, it's much more difficult for them to find that answer because they have no limitations anymore. All the behaviors, all the ideas, all the ways of thinking about life, all the ways of dealing with people and dealing with situations that are interpreted as bad or good, all the unexpected surprises that life throws at anyone, regardless of the amount of freedom that they enjoy, they now have a harder time learning to deal with those things because they have no restrictions. It's much easier to become frugal when one has very little money to spend in the first place. It's much easier to not get carried away with all the possibilities one can have to do with their time and to do with their resources when one doesn't have that time and those resources, at least not yet. And that's why in our current striving for more freedom, we are in the best position to prepare ourselves to finally get what we wish for. We're going to have to figure this out. As humanity, as a society, we are essentially animals that have evolved to think as time as a commodity, as time as an opportunity, as time as an investment, which is exactly what keeps us from living in the present moment. Again, there's a degree to that being, of course, necessary and useful. There's no one arguing about that. But the amount of freedom that we would like to have, we are unable to have currently, or we are unable to enjoy it currently, because we will always have the mindset of, how do I use this for more profit? How can I maximize this to get more out of this? And whenever we treat the current moment, the present hour, as a way to maximize all that is good about it in the future for more gain, we sacrifice that hour for the next, and the next hour for the one after that, and so on and so forth, until we realized we've never really used any of it. We've always kept investing it for some future, much greater happiness and much bigger freedom. And that time either never came, or when it did come, we didn't know how to do with it. We didn't know what to do with it because we had the one mindset of always thinking for the future. And we were unable to shift from striving to having. So my wish for you this week is that you think about what to do with what you're striving for and what to do with the amount of it that you already have. If you keep sacrificing the present hour for the next, you will have none of it to yourself. And if you keep sacrificing the things that you enjoy doing now for no other purpose other than for its enjoyment, if you keep giving that up to be able to do more of it in the future, you're giving up the very thing for which you are working for. If you like to read, if you like to paint, if you like to listen to music, if you like to make music, and you give up on that so you can truly do it in the future, you are defeating the purpose. You're giving up for which you are working towards. And that doesn't come back. Once we lose our habit, once we lose our appreciation, once we lose our enjoyment in these things, we can't get that back. We could make all the money in the world and have all the time in the world to finally go back to these things for which we had given up to do the work that granted us all this time and money to do those things. Now we have lost all appreciation. We can't go back to that. We have given it up. Now we don't enjoy it anymore. Now we're sitting there thinking, well, there's always more I could do. Who says this is it? There will always be that guilt and that shame that comes from not so-called maximizing the potential of the present hour for future goals. Once we give up art, once we give up the present moment, once we give up kindness, and once we give up doing the right thing just for the sake of doing the right thing, in order to maximize our ability to do these things in the future, we have defeated the purpose. We have given up that for which all this striving and all this work and all this fighting is for. So in this way, life isn't something. It's the opportunity for something.